Alright, friends. Let's do a very ambitious TBR. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a very quick February TBR. Yeah, I've picked out 10 books plus the one that I'm reading right now. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump right into it because we need to get into it. So the first book that I'm actually reading right now is it says 7 Deaths of Evelyn, Hardcastle, but sometimes it's 7.5 depending on where you buy the cover. But yeah, this is like basically it's described as like a Groundhog Day meets Agatha Christie, which is what it totally feels like. I'm on chapter, I think like 4 or 5, and so far it's really good. I'm also listening to it as an audiobook because it's available on Libby. And yeah, I'm really liking it. It's pretty good. Definitely like kind of mystery, suspenseful. The audiobook is in a British accent, which is fun because I don't know, for some reason I like listening to mysteries in British accents. Is that offensive? I don't know. Anyway, basically the idea is that this woman dies like over and over again, and this guy has to figure out what happens before she dies again, over and over and over again, and until he solves it, she's just gonna keep on dying. So yeah, definitely like a Groundhog Day kind of thing. But yeah, so I'm reading that right now. We'll see how it goes. The next one that is on my TBR is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. So this I think was in my like most anticipated reads of 2023, like reads that I really want to get through this year. Like my 2023 TBR, if you will. So this is about this girl Alice and like her mom and her grandmother. So her mother gets stolen away by a figure, and Alice realizes that the figure is from this like fairy tale that her grandmother wrote, which is like her favorite fairy tale, like her and her mom's favorite fairy tale. So she's like, oh, I'm gonna go and like get her in the book. That's cool. And then when she gets there, it's very different from like how her grandmother kind of described it to her. Like it's the same, but it's different. So it's kind of like a fantasy, not horror, but like kind of thrillery. She's trying to rescue her mother. So her and her friend are going in there to like rescue her mother. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting concept, like a book about being in a book. I'm kind of really excited for this one, and this is also like available as an audiobook on Libby, and I borrowed it for this month, so hopefully I can listen to it as audiobook sometimes too when I like can't physically read or I'm doing something. Like I like audiobooking like when I'm putting away my laundry or just like on like a stationary bike or like on the treadmill or something. So right, the next one is The Final Support Group by Gradi Hendrix. The Final Girl Support Group by Gradi Hendrix. And this is about basically like a bunch of final girls. And if you don't know what a final girl is, it's basically like the last girl who usually gets killed in a like horror film or something like that. So it's meant to pay tribute to like big films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, all those kinds of movies. So these girls have been meeting in like a therapy kind of like support group for final girls, like girls who survived these types of like massacres that are depicted in these movies. And when they're going to therapy, like I guess someone is like kind of tormenting them, and like their worst fear comes back, and like yeah, so it's kind of like a horror. I'm really excited though because I like horror movies a lot, and like I've always liked watching those. So I think kind of reading a book where it's in like modern language, not like, because those books that like any of those are based on are really old. Sometimes I find them difficult to read, but this is kind of like in modern language, so I think it'll be really good, and I've heard a lot of great things about it. I actually picked this up on the book outlet, like it has one of those marks at the bottom, which is fine. But yeah, it was pretty cheap and it's in very good condition, so I'm very excited for this. Right, the next one I'm going to read is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I put this on my TBR last month and I didn't get to it, and I was kind of very sad about that because I really wanted to read it. So I'm putting it back on this month because I want to read it, and I really want to read this series because I've heard so much about it, and I know I'm going to like, I know I'm going to like it. It's one of those where like every person who I like the books that they read liked it, so I know I'm gonna like it. But basically this is about Rowan, who is in the business of like theme parks and like production companies, like anything that has to do with like what he calls like a fairy tale. He hires this girl named Zara as I guess like an assistant or something, and then he kisses her and like things kind of just spiral out of control from there. So I think it's a dual point of view. Yeah, it is a dual point of view, which I love. So I'm very, very excited about this. This is part of the Dreamland Billionaires series. Okay, the next one I'm going to read was also on my January TBR, and I didn't get to it, and I was so upset. So I'm going to read The Assassin's Blade this month. Like, I absolutely need to. Like, these two are priority over any of the other ones, if I'm being honest, because I want to read it. If you don't know what The Assassin's Blade is, it's the prequel to the Throne of Glass series, and the order in which I've decided to read it is reading this first based on the fact that Sarah J Maas released these, like, novellas before Throne of Glass, so to me that was her intended like reading order. And every time she posts anything about it, this one's always like the first one. So I'm gonna read this first and then I'm gonna move on to the series. And like, I already have the series up there because I know that I'm gonna like it because I loved ACOTAR, so I'm very excited for that. All right, the last few books are all romance books because it is the month of February and we need some romance in our life. Just some, you know, some of it can be a little tough, but we're going to talk about love this month. So the first one is going to be Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. So this is like a romance novel. This person, she's a PhD candidate. She's always been obsessed with like true crime and serial killers, and she's doing her dissertation on the topic. And like while she's kind of doing it, she starts to be convinced that like her neighbor is a serial killer and like he's being really sketchy and stuff. But it seems like over time she realizes that actually she's just like falling in love with him. So we're gonna see what this is about. What I've heard is really funny and it's a romance, and I just want something about love, and I love true crime too, so I think it'll be cute. All right, the next one is actually a memoir, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This was everywhere. Basically it's a memoir about like literally everything that has to do with adulthood. Like it's also about parties, dates, friends, jobs, life, like so anything that has to do with like in your 20s. And I've heard like this is a great book to read if you're in your 20s, and it just kind of covers all that topics, and it can just like strikes a chord with like any woman of any generation. So yeah, I think that this one is gonna be a really good one, and like while it is about romance and just like love and life, it's also just gonna be like, I think, a very good, like not educational but like reflective read for me. I like reading books sometimes that are just like reflective. All right, the next one I'm gonna read is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. So I know she's canceled. I know that we've collectively basically canceled Colleen Hoover, but I'm just gonna say I bought like all of her books when I started reading like a good chunk of them, and I realized that I really liked them, and I kind of just started to accumulate them. So I'm gonna read them because I already own them and I want to read them, but I might donate them or something. But anyway, I'm gonna read this. This is about Sydney, who's in college working a steady job, and she has a boyfriend and she's rooming with her best friend and everything is wonderful, and then she realizes that Hunter is cheating on her and she's forced to decide like what her next move would be. That is not a spoiler. It's literally on the back of the book. I don't know why sometimes like they put everything out there, but it's fine. But then she like kind of starts getting attracted to her neighbor Ridge, and yeah, so she starts to notice her neighbor Ridge, and like there's something about him that like she just can't like kind of like shake off. Like she really is attracted to him, and like vice versa, he's really like attracted to her. And yeah, they start to realize like they need each other for like emotional support or whatever. And basically it's just like a very like angsty like romance, and like it's about two people who are falling in love, but there's like all the complications that come with it. I do enjoy some of Colleen Hoover's books because I do think they touch upon like really important topics. I just don't know if she necessarily deals with them in the best light, or if they're marketed in the best light. Like I think a lot of them need to be marketed like differently. Like some of these should not be considered YA or romance books, if I'm being honest. Like they should be considered fiction books, I think. But yeah, I'm gonna read this month. I have the entire series, so I am gonna probably just read the series. I'm not saying that I don't like her or her books, I just don't really agree with like some of the stuff that she's been up to lately, and just like brushing off things, and like yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on it. It's just very controversial. So Anyway, the next book I'm going to read is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This book is so hyped. I've heard it's so cute, so I thought the best time to read it would literally be in February for Valentine's Day. This is going to be just like a cute romance book. But yeah, this is literally like a childhood friends to lovers. Like, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited for this one, to be honest. The last 2 books I actually just got in a haul, which was my last video. So I put them on my TBR immediately for this month because they're both romances and I wanted to read them. So the first one is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. So this is about a figure skater who is trying to join Team USA and kind of get like practice time on a rink. She's battling this guy, Nate, for ice time essentially, and his focus is on like keeping his hockey team on the ice and like using the ice as like more than her basically. Like basically he wants to dominate the skating rink and not let the figure skaters have it. That's what I'm understanding. But obviously they're forced to like compromise, and I think it's basically like an enemies to lovers kind of deal. It's a fluffy romance. Like, it's really cute. I've heard, so I'm excited. I'm probably gonna read this month. And the last one I added was By a Thread by Lucy Score. I heard this was really cute. It's like a grumpy boss kind of romance. It's a romantic comedy. And I have a feeling that the banter in this is going to be really good because the back has like both of their point of views, and like the top has Dominic and like his entire spiel, and then hers, Allie, at the end is just like one line and it just says like, ha, hold my beer, charming. Like, I think the banter is going to be really good in this. And Sarah Caroli read it and she really enjoyed it, so that's why I picked it up, because she's a queen and she has good book recommendations. So yeah, I'm gonna read that this month, and hopefully I get to all these this month. I hope so. I'm probably gonna film a video reading these romances, just like reading a bunch of romances during Valentine's Day week. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Comment down below what you're planning to read this month. If you are gonna be doing like a romance binge like me, definitely put down some recommendations. I always love a good romance. Comment, like, and subscribe, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, evening, week, month, what time you're watching this at, and I'll see you next time. Bye.